اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بر خاتم انبیاء محمد صلوات. اللهم إنا أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا باب ذي الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد، أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر، أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى، أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد، أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوب عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالمهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين صلوات اللهم صل على رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الإخلاص والصلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بر خاتم أنبياء محمد صلوات
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى قوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أليس الله بكاف عبده ويخوفونك بالذين من دونه ومن يضلل الله فما له من هاد ومن يهد الله فما له من مضل أليس الله بعزيز ذي انتقام صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I begin this surah that we've been continuing of Surah Zumar, Tafsir of Surah Zumar since the month of Ramadan. I began by reciting the ayat number 36 and 37 in front of you tonight. But before I begin, of course, let's ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that on this blessed night in which we recite and do Tawassul to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, may Allah accept all our hajat and fulfill all our hajat, and let not be anyone who leaves tonight without their hajat being fulfilled. These two ayat, of course, it's been a break in the middle since we had this discussion, so I don't want to go back and take you back and bridge back what was being discussed. All these discussions are available online. But here, it is separate from the past discussions and sort of like a new ruku that starts. And I'm sure as you've seen when we do the group recitation of Quran, Quran is divided by surahs, by ajza, by the ruku, by the manazil, and different groups have been made to divide the Quran. The purpose was when there are 7 manazil means you can finish the Quran in 7 days, so you do 1 manzil a day. When there are 30 ajza, it means that you can try and finish the Quran in 30 days, so you do 1 juz a day. Similarly, other means of dividing the ayat of Quran is through ruku'. And you usually see this ayn that is written after every few ayat. And so of course there are a lot of ruku' in Quran. The main purpose behind this ruku' is that it divides the contents and the discussion of Quran. It seems as if it does not have anything to do with the previous discussion, and the previous discussion was completed. Now the new ruku' begins, and hence the new discussion is starting. So that will happen. Quran is, of course, is not a book of a novel where you're reading and there's everything has to be consistent from the past. No, there are things that are mentioned sometimes which might not be related to the previous discussion. They might find an ayat which talks about one Nabi, and the story of one Nabi has not finished. Allah starts talking about the second Nabi, and there just one aspect of that Nabi is discussed, and then Allah will go back to the previous Nabi. And so you find all of these mysteries that are in Quran. Here we see that this ayat begins by saying, Alaysa Allahu bikafin abdahu. Is God not sufficient as far as this support is concerned for the mu'mineen and the people and those who are His servants? They frighten you with what they worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there was this concept that people would be frightening others. As is the case today, when it comes to something religious, people are frightened. Well, I don't want to say anything about this. What if I'm wrong? And, when it comes to even some of the ritualistic aspect of our deen, some of the things which are completely ritualistic in our deen, we're very, cautious when we speak about them, when we say something about them. Someone will comment on anything when it comes to politics, when it comes to other things. But when it comes to some religious practice, people will be very cautious in saying anything lest it is, going to be against it. And so, when it comes to speaking about even those things which are not part of the tenets of the religion of Islam, they may not be furu and usul deen, but even outside of those, things that have become part of the ritual of our deen, we're very concerned and we're very cautious before we open our mouth and say something about it. So these people, they used to threaten and instill fear into mu'mineen through their false gods. Why? They were worshipping these gods, and of course they had this reverence towards these gods, and they would believe in them. They would consider these gods to be the ones who provide for them. And so right away they will instill this fear into mu'mineen if they said anything against their gods. So he says what? Is God not sufficient support for the servants, the abd? They frighten you with what they worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who can guide one whom Allah has caused to go astray? Now this is a very critical portion of this ayat, which I'll explain. Literally what it says, who can guide the one whom Allah has made to go astray? Meaning what? Ayat is suggesting that Allah has caused this individual to go astray. Now no one can guide this person. If Allah has caused this person to be misguided, no matter what I do, I cannot guide this person back to the right path. Not just me. The hukum over here, the command over here, the speech over here is to the Prophet. That, O Prophet, if this person has gone astray and Allah has caused him to go astray, then you can't do anything about it. And therefore, this ayat requires explanation as to, does Allah cause people to go astray? Who can mislead one whom Allah has guided? And then on the contrary, the one whom Allah has guided, there's no one who can mislead them. That is again an assurance towards the heart of those who are firm believers. That if you believe firmly, nobody can misguide you. The how strong your foundation is. That's why you say, when it comes to physical buildings, when it comes to your deen and your iman, the stronger the foundation, the less the worry is. But if the foundation was not very strong, then of course you're going to start worrying about the construction, and you're going to start worrying about the later on what will happen to this. So if the children were not properly groomed from the very beginning when it comes to the religion and the ahkam of the deen, when they grow older, no matter how much you try and make them do it, they will not feel that concretely about those tenets of the religion of Islam, or any faith or any aqaid or any beliefs for that matter. That's why Shair Farsi, he has said it very beautifully. Gar nahad memar khishte awal gar nahad memar kaj ta suraya miravad divar kaj. If the memar, the engineer, if he places the first khisht is that brick. If he places the first brick tilted, kaj. Ta suraya is, stars. Ta suraya miravad divar kaj. No matter how long or tall this building is, it'll always be tilted. Because the foundation was tilted. So you got to make sure the foundation is straight so that you can have the balance no matter how tall this building is. So the disbelievers of Makkah, what is the context of it? And inshallah we'll dive into the ayat. I have plenty of time tonight, so I'll take my sweet time in explaining these ayat. The disbelievers of Makkah used to say to the Prophet, so again the kalam is to the Prophet, you behave insolently in respect to our gods. Rasulullah would not respect the gods of what were these gods? Lat, Manat and Uzza that they used to worship. And utter rude words against our gods. Prophet used to say, well, these gods that you have made with your own hands, they're not going to help you. They're not going to support you. They're not going to be able to defend you. You do not know how powerful they are. So they would respond. You do not know how powerful they are and what miraculous powers they possess. The kuffar would respond. Anybody who dishonored them was ruined in the past. If anybody dared spoke against our gods in the past, bad things have happened to them. So dare you say anything about our gods, something ill, same thing will happen to you, because this is proven through facts. If you also do not desist from what you have said or what you say against them, you too will be annihilated. Now, of course, if you say this to an ordinary person, a layman, they will be scared. Right? They'll be fearful. It's like, oh man, there might be something in it. I don't want to be jumping into a valley where I don't know. So I'm going to refrain from speaking against that. But of course, Rasulullah is not ordinary person like you and I. He is receiving this knowledge, ilm ladun, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, whatever he says. And then here also, Quran, while it tells us, don't curse their gods, lest they will turn around and curse your gods, right? The ayat of Quran says that, La tasubbu, do not sub or shitam to their gods, while they will turn around and they'll curse your real God. And so, well, is this in line with what Rasulullah used to say? Absolutely. Rasulullah is being commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say these things. I'll prove it to you. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Rasulullah does not utter a word out of his own whims. He speaks only what Allah asks him to say. So when Rasulullah is being told to go ahead and not curse, or to say something to their gods, insolent, as the ayat is suggesting, that means it is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it tells us, La tasabbu, do not curse their gods, it is for us. We should not be making fun and mocking someone else's false deities. Why? They will turn around and mock our real Khuda. So the Quran, through various interpretations, has highlighted the immunity of the noble Prophet from all kinds of conspiracies, such as Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Remember that? Allah will protect you. Here Allah is also providing the support. He says what? Alaysallahu bikafin abdahu. Is Allah not sufficient to his servant? Over there said in Surah Ma'idah, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah will protect you from the people. Hey, O Rasul, go ahead and do what you've been commanded to do. What will happen? Regardless of what these people plot against you, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. So now that you have the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't need to worry about anything. So that gave this confidence to Rasulullah to keep on doing what he was doing. Or at another place, this was after Ayah Balligh in Surah Ma'idah, Inna kafaynaka al-mustahzi'in. In Surah Hijr, after relating the stories of the previous prophets, just as God saved Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam from drowning, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam from the fire, Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam from the danger of Fir'aun, and Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam from being crucified, guess what? Allah will protect you as well. So you have all these examples in front of you, and the ayah says, Inna kafaynaka al-mustahzi'in. Will protect you from those who are mocking, those who are becoming violent against you, those who are showing animosity towards you. Don't need to worry about that. The way we saved Hazrat Ibrahim, Hazrat Nuh, Hazrat Isa, Hazrat Musa, and all of the previous Anbiya, guess what? We'll do the same favor to you as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Our duty in all conditions is servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ubudiyat. Now, of course, we've spoken about the concept of ubudiyat. The word abd has appeared here, so it is worth mentioning that what this ubudiyat is. We read in a hadith narrated in Sahih Muslim, hadith number 7072, which says, Man asbaha wa humumuhu hammun wahid, kafahu Allahu humum ad-dunya wal akhirah. Whoever starts the day with a single concern, that is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can I serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How can I make my service better to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah will suffice him from the concerns of this world and the hereafter. Begin your day. In the morning, your main concern is what? So that you are able to serve God. Your main concern is what in the morning? That you're able to please God. Your main concern in the morning is what? That I do something which does not displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you wake up with that thought and you try to carry it out throughout the day, what happens? The hadith says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove all the humum and all the concerns, the worldly concerns that you may have. We all have worldly concerns. We have work-related concerns. We have community-related concerns. We have family-related concerns. We have colleague-related concerns. We have outwardly concerns. We have concerns all over the world. Maybe there's concerns about my business. Maybe there are concerns about my teaching, my students, my asatiza, my friends, my family, my subordinate, my bosses, all these different concerns that I have. Will I be able to put food on my table or not? Will I be able to get to all these concerns? Family members that are living in other part of the world, those who are suffering and struggling, going through difficult time in those parts of the world, while I don't have those concerns, all of those things are bothering me, right? Everything bothers us. Especially when we see the news and we see the media and all these things are right in front of us. We have tons of concerns. Every single person, one of us sitting over here, we are all carrying tons of concerns with ourselves. Each and every single one of us. Different levels, different concerns. At a school level, you have concerns of the next test that is coming up, the next exam that you're about to take, for example. As a married individual, you're concerned for your kids, their well-being, their safety, their security, your spouse, their well-being, and so on and so forth. As a professional, you're concerned about your workplace, your work environment, your other things related to that. Everyone has concerns. There isn't a person who doesn't have any concerns. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He said, if you begin your day with one concern, and that is how you're going to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will make all of these concerns, Allah will be sufficient for you. Meaning what? You won't be worrying about any of the concerns of this world and the hereafter. It's not like these concerns have gone away. It's not like these concerns don't no longer exist. It's just the impact of that serving one God will have the trickling effect where you don't even worry about it. Not worrying about it in the sense that you're now heedless or you're ignorant. No, that's not what it means. Meaning the way when you go to a psychiatrist, the way when you go and speak to someone who gives wisdom to you, and then they make your weight lighter. Or not even someone, just when you have some concern and you share it with a friend, you share it with some family members. Why do you share this information? You share it so that you can share the burden. It makes you what? Lighter. You're carrying all this burden, you go speak to someone, it makes your weight lighter. That's what is being mentioned over here. So the messages that we can derive from this ayat and these two ayat, if a person becomes servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are assured and God will suffice them and take care of them as far as their affairs are concerned. Number two, in the face of threats from enemies, which we all face, internal enemies or external enemies, let us calm ourselves by remembering God's support and care. Alaysa Allahu bikafin abduhu wa yukhawwifunaka. The tool of the unbelievers, that's mentioned in this ayat, is to create an atmosphere of fear and terror. How true is this today? Even those who we are, at odds with today, those who don't believe in our religion, in our deen, who mock the teachings of Islam, who mock our Prophet, who mock our books, who mock our Anbiya, who make fun of all of this, our practices, things that we do. You see, what do they do? The tool of the unbeliever is to create an atmosphere of fear. Instill this fear into you, instill this terror into you, and then that results in sometimes you behaving differently. يُخَوِّفُونَكَ بِالَّذِينَ مِن دُونِهِ. Guidance and misguidance are in the hands of Allah. This is a very important discussion. I'll make sure that I take enough time to explain this. Guidance and misguidance are both in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to this ayat. It says, يُضْلِلِ اللَّهُ وَيَهْدِ اللَّهُ. Allah misguides and Allah guides. But the prerequisite, here's that punchline. The prerequisite of receiving guidance or being deprived of guidance are in the hands of whom? You and I. The prerequisite is in our hands. Yeah, eventually Allah guides or misguides. But you and I have the prerequisite of it. Every one of us is provided with that prerequisite, that aql that Allah has given to you. And if you don't have that aql, then of course you're not responsible for it. But the fact that you have this aql, the fact that you have this naql, then you have to utilize it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We read in other verses as well, Yahdillahu man yunib. Allah guides those who turn toward Him. La yahdi man huwa musrifun kadhab. And Allah does not guide those who are, extravagant and those who are liars. These are all simple ayat of Quran. Do not even have any complexities that to understand us. to understand them. But here, the prerequisite of guidance and misguidance is in our hands. I'll explain. Number 5, do not fear having few numbers and resources. Fear going out of the bounds of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That should be the main fear. Not that we are so few, what is going to happen to us? They'll crush us, they're more in power, they have more money, they have more financial means, and they have resources and all that stuff. Don't worry about that. As long as you have firm belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those 72 were able to conquer over 30,000. You need to have that firm belief. For if you are Allah's servant, no power can break you. فَمَا لَهُ مِن مُضِلٍ, as the ayah says. There isn't anything that can go ahead and cause dhalal to you. Number 6, human is a being who reaches a point in disbelief where no guidance is effective. When Allah says this person, there's no way for this person to be now believer. As the ayat of Quran says to our Prophet, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses him by saying, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. O Prophet, you do not guide whomever you wish to guide. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah guides whomever He wishes. Unfortunately, our brothers in Ahl Sunnah and many of their mufassirin, they make the misdaq of this ayah to be the uncle of Rasulullah, Hazrat Abu Talib. That Rasulullah was trying his level best and was trying hard to make Hazrat Abu Talib say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, and Abu Talib would not say it. Even in his last breath, Rasulullah was kept on telling him, oh uncle, go ahead and say this. And Hazrat Abu Talib, na'udhu billah, was refraining from saying. And the ayat was then revealed, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Oh Prophet, you cannot force anyone to, believe. It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand. That is not the case. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. You look at the life of Hazrat Abu Talib, what he did for Islam, how we label him as Muhsin Islam. If it was not for his moral support, and if it was not for the wealth of Hazrat Khadija, this was the plan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide. And sometimes you don't have to utter the words openly for everyone. The iman is there. And if Abu Talib is not mu'min, then there isn't anyone else who can have the title of iman on their head. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Why would God misguide anyone? That is the question. Human deviation is not arbitrary from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the consequence of our own actions. We went toward these things, and that is the reason we are now. Whatever you sow is what you're going to reap. That's what we planted. So should we be expecting something else? I planted what? Grapes. Should I be expecting something else from it? Miraculously? No. Whatever you plant is what you're going to reap. So therefore, it's going to harvest. So therefore, when we see misguidance on part of some individuals, it is what they have sowed. It is what they have planted. That is going to be the outcome of them. An example of God being sufficient, أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِكَافٍ عَبْدَهُ, for us can be witnessed in the story of Hazrat Musa and Hazrat Khidr alayhim as-salatu was-salam. You all are aware of the story. Surah Kahf talks about the story of these two great prophets. And, where Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu was-salam is told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go seek knowledge from one of our servants, and that is Hazrat Khidr. He arrives, and he finds Hazrat Khidr, and now they go on this expedition. And 3 events take place. Each one was questioned by Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. We've explained this before, so I'm not going into the details of it. I'm just trying to derive the point that is Shahid Misal over here. The example of Allah being sufficient for us in the story of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Hazrat Khidr. So when Prophet Musa inquired Hazrat Khidr as to why he bore a hole in the ship. Remember 3 incidents? 1, he took a life of a child. Number 2, he fixed the wall that was bound to fall. He fixed it. And number 3, he bore a hole into a ship. So here, Hazrat Musa again right away question, why are you doing this? When you put a hole in a ship that is sailing in any type of water, water comes in, what is going to happen? We're going to drown. So such a ship will drown, and all its inhabitants will drown with it. That is what he said. قَالَ أَخَرَقْتَهَا لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا. Did you, bore a hole in it so that the ahl of the ship, they will all drown? The reason why Hazrat Musa asked this question is to clarify that with this act, we won't make it to the shore. We eventually want to make it to the shore, right? Now I understand why you're poking a hole into the ship. You want to make the ship defected. When the ship is defected, that king who's standing at the shore is going to do what? Is confiscating all the ships. Now when you see that this ship is no good, he's going to spare it. That's the knowledge that Hazrat Khizr has. But what is the question Hazrat Musa asking? He's saying, oh bhai, what are you doing? If you poke a hole into the ship, we won't even make it to the shore. Let alone seeing that king who's about to confiscate. How is he going to confiscate when we all drown here in this? You get the point? So Hazrat Musa, his point is relevant over here. First, number one, you don't poke a hole without the knowledge of what's going to happen later on. That knowledge is with Hazrat Khizr. Hazrat Musa doesn't have that knowledge right now. Hazrat Khizr knows that there's a king waiting who's confiscating all the ships. So that's the reason he's doing this. Hazrat Musa asked a simple, intelligent question. He said, we won't even make it to the shore. When we don't make it to the shore, might as well let the ship be. We make it to the shore and let him confiscate the ship. At least we'll be alive at that time. We're doing this, what are you doing? You're causing all of us to drown. So when this muqaddamah is clear, Hazrat Khizr didn't respond about the fear of drowning. He looked at him and as if he's telling him, oh Musa, you witnessed this before. When Allah commanded your mother to place you in a chest and send you off in the river. Now a river could be up and down. There's ebbs and flows in it. Sometimes the stream could be high, sometimes low. It might have some falls in between. And this chest, this basket numa chest, right, that she's putting you in, it's not a proper ship, or it's not a proper boat. It's nowhere close to being a boat. Yes, she had this command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place you in that boat and send you off. He said, you witnessed it, that your mother, she was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place you in a chest and send you off in the river. Similar to how the chest didn't drown and God protected you, the same God will protect us from drowning today as well. That is the example of being sufficient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for us. While we're doing something which is bound to go ahead and drown us, but because Allah is sufficient, He will make sure that we don't drown. Why? Allah can change the nature of things. What other example comes into your mind when something that is supposed to do something, it doesn't because of the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Hazrat Ibrahim. What is fire supposed to do? Burn. Does it burn Hazrat Ibrahim? Hazrat Ibrahim is sitting comfortably in the middle of this fire and not a single burn on him. Fire is supposed to burn. Allah commands the fire what? Ya naro kuni bardan wa salama ala Ibrahim. Oh fire, I know why I created you. Your job is to burn. Anything that is thrown into you, you'll burn. But today you're going to change your nature. Your nature is to burn. Today you're going to change it. You're going to become sound and safe for Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah is sufficient. Similarly, a ship with a hole in it is bound to what? Drown. But because Allah is sufficient and we believe in Him and we're doing this because of His commands and His servitude, He's going to go ahead and save us. This was so effective that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam didn't question about this matter again. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Next ayah says, وَمَنْ يَهْدِ اللَّهُ فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ مُضِلٍ أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِعَزِيزٍ ذِي انْتِقَامٍ. And whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, there's no misguidance for them. And is it not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Aziz and all, avengeful? Guidance is a reward. Sometimes we take it for granted. The word hidayat that has been appeared in these ayat, and there are different types of hidayat. I'm going to speak about another division of hidayat that we may not have heard before. We've usually heard the concept of hidayat and guidance as what? One is irayatut tariq, which means you point someone in the direction. Someone comes to you and says, where is this place located? You said, over there. Right? You're giving that person what? Hidayat. You're giving that person guidance. Number two, someone says, where is this located? You said, come with me. I'll take you there. That is another type of hidayat. What's the difference between the two? In the first hidayat, there's a possibility of one being misled and lost. In the second, there isn't. Why? Because you're taking them there personally, right? You know this place well. You know it in and out. And therefore, you grab someone's hands. They're not going to be lost. And when you go for Hajj and Umrah and Ziyarat, well, not Umrah so much. When you go to Hajj, you have to go to Mina. And Mina is a place where everybody gets lost, right? It's a tent city. It's only established for 3 days all year long. And everything looks the same. People go for Rami Jamarat, on the way back, they get lost. Very simple. Similarly, when you go to Ziyarat, there's a new place for you. You go to Ziyarat, there's so many exit doors. You don't know. You come to our masjid, there's one entrance and there's one same exit. And it's not that big, so there's really no way of getting lost, even though people might even get lost over here. But when you go to the haram of Sayyid al-Shuhada, when you go to the haram of Amirul Mu'minin, when you go to the haram of Imam al-Kazim and other imams, Imam al-Rada, for example, huge complex. You go in from one place, they all look the same, the doors all look the same, you come out from somewhere else. You say, well, this is not the place where I went in. Where am I? So of course you get lost, and then you need guidance. So if someone is there to tell you, the one who lives there, the one who visits very often, those who go to ziyarat every year, they know this place. That's one division of guidance. I'm talking about a different division of guidance today. Something which I'd say to myself as well is something new to me. I did not look at guidance until I came across these ayat. You've heard of guidance from this aspect. I'm sure this is repetitive for you. But this aspect of guidance is something which is new for me. Not that, I'm taking an honor and saying, oh, this is new for me because I'm so knowledgeable. No. You're learning every single day. You're learning something every single day, right? From that aspect, all the knowledge, we don't possess it. We gradually and slowly, we learn things. So this was something new for me, and hopefully, it's, some of you may not have heard of this before as well, but if you have, bravo to you, mashallah, with your ilm and with your knowledge. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So the two types of guidance. One is initial. Second one is rewarding. Have you heard of these two? Initial guidance and the guidance as a reward. These are two guidances that are mentioned in Quran. This division is something which is new to me. I didn't hear of this before, and hopefully I can explain it. Initial guidance is through the reason and tradition. So through your aql and through Quran. That's the initial guidance. Allah provides this initial guidance to us. What did He give to the child who's born? Some reasoning. Child, a few days old, knows how to get his way across, how to communicate, how to tell what it needs to tell. Until, of course, the child starts speaking at the age of 1 or 2 or 3, and then they fully develop the vocab, and now they're speaking full sentences, right? This is a process that we've all seen as our children have grown. We've all seen this process. And then, of course, when they're old enough to communicate properly. That's the initial guidance. Guess what? Everyone is provided for that. Nobody is spared of this initial guidance. Everyone is given this guidance. Doesn't matter where you come from. You're all provided for this intuitive initial guidance. Everyone has that. So nobody can say, oh, I wasn't given the initial guidance. No, everybody was provided for and given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna hadaynahu sabil. We most surely gave sabil, the path, and the guidance to mankind. Hadaynahu najdain. Through their senses, through the eyes and the ears and the other senses that we provided, we gave what? Guidance to you. You're able to see with your eyes what is danger, you stay away from it. You're able to taste with your tongue, you're able to see, you're able to feel, you're able to hear. When you hear the alarm, that's the guidance for you. We gave you all of that. That's with you. Whoever, though, respects this initial guidance and acts accordingly, Allah bestows upon them the rewarding guidance. The reward of a guidance comes to you if you respect the first one. If you respect the initial guidance, if you respect, I don't know if this example sits well, just came to my mind. You buy your child a car, and then they wreck it the next day. Don't worry about it, I'll buy you another one. No, the prerequisite of buying a car was that you make sure that you keep it safe and sound. And in the process, keep yourself safe and sound as well. But you wrecked the car, and you got into an accident, and you're also irresponsible. You think I'm going to go ahead and buy you another car? Not until you learn a few things, right? Not until you get better at it. So here, maybe the example is probably not the best, but if you take care of that initial guidance, as I'm running out of my time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide you that rewarding guidance. And the ayat of Quran says what? مَنْ يُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِي قَلْبَهُ. Whoever acts on that initial guidance, whoever believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah does what? يَهْدِي قَلْبَهُ. Allah guides his heart. So whoever believed, you believed, why? Because the initial guidance was provided. Because of that, Allah gave you reward. He guided your heart. In tuti'uhu, if you do ita'at, tahtadu, you will then find the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's a condition that is for the initial guidance. If you believe in the initial guidance, if you take care of the initial guidance, what is the reward? You'll be given this rewarding guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Creation of an inclination toward virtue and the love for goodness in the heart. That is something which you and I have to work for. For example, near the adhan of Fajr, some run toward masjid with much enthusiasm. This inclination, love and enjoyment is the rewarding guidance. But toward the adhan, people hear, they turn off, and then go back to sleep. I'm not saying that they're not rewarded by this guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but nonetheless, those who have the shauq, they want to come out of the bed in the middle of the night. Nowadays, it's in the middle of that. 3:56 is the time of adhan as-subh. You get out of the bed in the middle of the night. And then on top of that, not only just get out of the bed and stroll over to the janamaz, you go, get ready, and say, well, I want to come and pray in the mosque. Make this leap. You have this enthusiasm. You have this love, and you enjoy it. It's not like it's being forced onto you. No, I have to go. Maybe it's forced onto me because I have to lead. But it's not forced onto you. Any one of you can miss it, skip it whenever you want to. So you come with this love and you come with this enjoyment, you come with this enthusiasm. Guess what? You respected the initial guidance. Allah is now rewarding you with this guidance. So send a salawat for yourself. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let me quickly bring you towards the end. Allah has not created evil in our nature. That answer to that question, does Allah misguide us? Allah has not created evil in our nature. Nobody is born with an evil nature. Automatically you name and label, so-and-so is the son of Hitler, so-and-so is the son of Saddam, so-and-so is the son of, you name all the cruel people in the history. They're born with evil nature. No, Allah creates on the right nature. And He provides that initial guidance. So Allah has not created anyone on the evil nature. Similarly, and how do you understand that? Similarly, human digestive system is not compatible with poison. Doesn't accept rotten food. What happens if you eat something which has gone bad? It throws up. It doesn't accept it. That doesn't belong in me. You give poison to someone, that's it. That doesn't belong in there. So it is repulsive toward anything that is bad. Just the same way our digestive system is repulsive toward that which is rotten or poisonous. Guess what? Our heart is the same way, created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's repulsive towards sinning, toward evil. Allah did not create the fitrat of insan on evil to accept all of the bad. No, you are repulsive toward it. You hate it, you abhor it, you stay away from it. No, people do become evil though. How does that happen? Heart does not accept the sins initially, but the gradual imposition of sins such as lying and betrayal prepares the nature and heart to accept these sins. Slowly and gradually you train anything and you'll be able to get to that place. Last few things, this ayat concludes by giving two attributes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Aziz and Dhuntiqam. Allah is Aziz, Almighty, and Dhuntiqam, revengeful. So God is Aziz and God is Muntaqim, as mentioned in this ayat. What does that mean, Allah is Aziz? Well, Allah is Aziz, we know that. Aziz refers toward the Izzat, as well as Aziz refers toward the might and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Intiqam, we all know the word Intiqam, what it means. Penetrating the divine religion and triumphing over is not possible. No one can triumphant over the religion of Islam. لِيُزْهِرَ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. No, Islam will be triumphant over other religions. It cannot be the other way around. Allah says, كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَأَغْلِبَنَّ أَنَا وَالرُّسُلِي إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. Surah Mujadala 21. There's no way of defeating Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He has complete control and power over all affairs. أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِعَزِيزٍ ذِي انْتِقَامٍ, as this ayah says. Both of these ayat suggest that nothing can overcome this madhab, this deen, and nothing can overcome Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This also is a result of their lack of guidance. Those who think that way, that the foolish people esteem highly the power and the honor of their fake deities, but they never think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is almighty, and they can also be punished for insulting Him by the shirk that they are committing against Him. We'll stop over here as I have run out of my time. I had to stretch it out a little bit so that we can bring it closer and closer to the salat time. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq and ability to understand Quran and to be able to implement Quran into our daily lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and keep us on this path of guidance. Ihdinas sirat al-mustaqim, as we make dua in all of our prayers. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do our aqibat bil khair, that what is the good of being on the right path when you are deviated at the end of your life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're constantly on this path and we remain until our last breath. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. At the end, if I can ask you to please recite Surah Fatiha for the martyrs and those who passed away in this recent accident in Iran. The President, Ayatul Raisi, Hajjul Islam Ali Hashim, and two other folks from the province of Tabriz, as well as the security personnel, those who lost their lives. They're of course martyrs because they were serving the country and serving the cause of Islam. So we pray for their ulub darajat. Let's recite Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Lam yalid wa lam yalid wa lam yulad. وصلي على محمد وآله. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. صلوا على محمد وآله.